Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are here to talk with some Roxbury alumni. I am Julie Kile, the current director of Roxbury at Cheshire Academy. This is my first year as director and my third year at CA. Elisa,
My name is Elisa Laudati. I am an alum of Cheshire Academy, class of 2005. So it's our 20th high school reunion this year. Very exciting. It flew. I am also a former director of Roxbury. I got the opportunity to return as a faculty member, and I've stayed connected with the community because it's meaningful and it's important to me, and Roxbury has a very special place in my life and my heart. So thank you for having me.
Jake.
Hi, how you doing? Jake Lamar, class of 2012. I am a healthcare analyst or Medicaid analyst for the state of Rhode Island. Yeah, excited to be here.
Hello everyone, I'm Jasmine. I am class of 2011 and I joined Cheshire Academy as an international student back then. And I am currently back in Taiwan where I'm originally from, but before that I was a mortgage advisor in London.
Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan Friedman. I graduated in 2017. I currently live in Brooklyn, New York, and I am a therapist at a private practice on the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
Thank you, everybody. I think what we'll do is we'll start with just some kind of getting to know your questions, and then we'll ask you some more Roxbury specific questions, and then open the panel to questions from the audience. Those of you who are joining us, if you notice at the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A button. Feel free to put questions in that Q&A, and we'll definitely circle to them at the end. All right, Elise, you want to start us off?
Oh, you bet. When we met to plan kind of the session and how we would structure this, Julie and I talked about what makes Roxbury special. And part of what makes Roxbury so special is the relationships that students and their Roxbury instructors and teachers developed. And as a psychologist by training and a Roxbury director and instructor by experience, we wanted to start with centering that and really asking some questions to showcase kind of how important it is to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel understood. So we'll start with a little bit of kind of light touch at that. And the first question I'll ask is, what is the last show you binged, and what do you think that says about you? We'll start with anyone who'd like to open up and share.
I can start. I recently binged, and I guess episodes are still coming out, but The Pit on Max, which is a super fast-paced, intense show. It's based in the ER, and that's I'm very fast-paced. I like doing things hands-on. I like also being rewarded and seeing impact on people. So it's definitely because of the high pace for sure. But that's kind of my personality. So that's the recent show I'm watching.
I think going off of that, I actually am actively in the process of binging The Pulse, which is the other medical drama that is currently on the rise. And what does it say about me? It says that I need something that's going to keep my attention long enough, and it's done that. I'm about like 6 episodes in. It's really good. I've heard a range. A lot of people are split between The Pit and Pulse, but The Pit did get announced for a second season, so I guess that's coming up next for me as well.
I think for me, I don't really watch shows regularly, but the last time I binge a show, it's Netflix Arcane League of Legend. It's a very well-made animation, and the characters there are just have like so many layer depth, and it just like from the show you can see that how people react to like how they change because of like during the time of crisis, and you will also see some people not change or just stick to the same I would say same essence or same value during the crisis. And I think it just really make me think, and I think what it says about me is that it helps you see how people identify themselves during the crisis, and it's just quite like rewarding. Yeah.
Love it. I think I might want to go a little out of order than the questions that we shared we thought about, and maybe we'll only do a couple of these to get into the more Roxbury specific ones. But what is something that others do to make you feel safe, seen, and heard? And then as a follow-up to that, how does that connect with your experience in Roxbury?
I can go again. I can go first again. I definitely, it's something that makes me feel, I guess, yeah, safe, seen, and heard. I definitely enjoy when I'm around a group of people that are completely open-minded and not quick to judge. It's nothing's worse when you're in a room and you're trying to walk on eggshells because you know someone's either very hard-nosed about an opinion or very hard-nosed about ideas or a hobby of some sort. So having a group of friends or coworkers that are very open, not quick to judge. You guys can ask questions about whatever to each other without assuming the worst in someone. And it definitely ties back to Roxbury because Roxbury is a incredible program that you have an instructor who will be open to anything that you're saying, will help you work through your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions on either classes or just in life in general. So the program to be able to receive what your thoughts are and then help you work through them has definitely either molded me to that's how I do feel safe, is that I can walk into a room and have these ideas and um, you know again not be hard nosed on something, but willing to change and willing to change. So
Thank you.
You can go, Jasmine.
I just want to say I can't agree. I can't agree more with Jack. I think it's also what I feel. I think, like, just as Elisa says, I think it's what makes Roxbury program unique is the relationship we form with the Roxbury instructor. And go back to Elisa's questions of what makes me feel safe. I think it's definitely what Jack says, that you go into a room and you share something about yourself and you know that you can just be true and not being judged, and people not eager to come in and share their opinion, but instead they just show eye contact, be present, and show curiosity about you as an individual, and as opposed to like just coming in and just say something in order to reply to either your questions or your struggle. I think it is really the being present for you that makes me feel like safe and sane.
Yeah, I'll kind of round that out. Jasmine said curiosity. I think curiosity is such an important aspect of feeling safe and seen, as someone that relies on my own kind of community to do that. I also have clients that have that same ask of me. And then I also think accountability, right? To be around people that are going to hold you accountable, call out your bluffs, tell you when you've fallen short, I think is so important. And it also shows the true intention. And my experience with the Roxbury was nothing short of accountability. I worked with my instructor for multiple years, and we'll get into that. But when I was falling short or when I wasn't able to kind of see where I needed to improve, I had that level of support and curiosity and exploration that really allowed that. And yeah, I think building community, not only with between you and your Roxbury instructor, but also outside of that is so important. It allows you to, see other perspectives and kind of grow your own experiences. So.
I so much of that is really resonating with me and it's really powerful because what I'm hearing is really the space to be open, to be authentic without feeling like you're going to be judged or you know that people are not going to take a hard line on one thing or another, but approach you with curiosity and openness, and creating that space and having that relationship really allows for the dynamic where somebody can push you to be the best version of yourself and hold you accountable to those high expectations, because you can only go as far as somebody expects you to go, right? And I think all of what you said really captures that really beautifully. So we couldn't have planned it better. Thank you very much. Julie, do you want to move into some of the more specific Roxbury questions before we open it up?
Yeah, I'd love to have you share how long you participated in our Roxbury program when you were at CA. You've all graciously included your class year, so we kind of know about when you were at CA, but how long did you participate in our program?
You kind of cut out a little bit for me, but I'm going to improvise. I was in Roxbury all 4 years. Definitely don't know if I would have made it through all 4 years if I didn't really have it my freshman and sophomore year. Currently actively have ADHD was really, really beneficial. But the nice thing is that there was options for me just with my parents and with my instructor about, okay, like what is the benefit? Do you need 5 days a week? Freshman year, I definitely did. As I came up on senior year, I was typically between like 2 to 4 days on the week when it was that busier midterm and final time. I was sitting behind that desk getting my calendar out and organizing. So it definitely varied, which also allowed for different levels of support. And so specifically in high school, something that was so beneficial was this idea of like trying to find my own autonomy within Roxbury. There could be stigma behind it from other kids, but allowing you and your parents and your instructor to really decide, okay, like I see that you're making a lot of growth in this class. Let's pull back a bit. I'm going to give you more reins and so on and so forth. So wasn't it all 4 years, but the duration of how many days a week definitely varied based on my performance and where I was mentally, emotionally, developmentally.
I've been in Roxbury for 2 years, and it's my sophomore year and junior year. And I took like, if I am to look back, I definitely think I would most needed them in my freshman year, because that is the year where I just moved to the state and like being alone away from home and not being able to speak much English. So I definitely think it would be most beneficial to be in like to include freshman year for sure. But I think overall I get a lot of support academically, but most importantly emotionally from the program. And I think the impact is really long lasting. It lasts till I would say now, like even now, I benefit from having a close relationship with the instructor when I'm in high school.
I was in Roxbury for 6.5 years. I was there I was there in CA since sixth grade. I think we pulled back the last semester of my senior year. I was already in college, and I felt very confident in finishing out the year. But yeah, like Jonathan said, the variety of how many days a week, kind of alternating that, and definitely helped with confidence too. There was like, okay, I'm feeling good. I don't need it that much. But jumping back into having more days a week, again with that stigma, there's nothing wrong with it because it's it's incredible help. So being able to fluctuate between that was great. So, but yeah, so I was since 6th grade.
Awesome. I love hearing about how the program helped you in different ways at different times. Thank you for sharing. Can you tell us a little bit about how your Roxbury experience may have impacted your college experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to actually touch on something that Jasmine said that thought was really important is like we look at Roxbury as like an academic program, which in fact it is. That is where you get most benefit. But what I will say to prospective families specifically is like if you allow yourself and your child to fully lean in, there is so much emotional support that you can also get from it. I can think of a number of times where I came in after a test, like really upset. I was stressed, I was uncomfortable. And that was a space that I always knew was going to be able to foster that level of community and really meet my needs. But as it relates to college, moving into college, I really was able to put all my assignments down on a paper and really prioritize. It was super helpful. I was able to hold myself accountable, and I also learned a lot about time management. I thought that I was always the type of kid that could do things under pressure, and then my Roxbury instructor would often read over the papers and give me edits back. And when I did it last minute, she was like, "Oh, you did this last night. Like you didn't spend the week doing this." I tried to fit my way out of it, but there was a clear indication of the work that was done. So moving into college, I found that it was a much easier transition. And I was also really able to advocate for myself, specifically with my needs surrounding accommodations. If I was taking a test and I needed extra time, that was something that I felt more confident. Jody really helped me to navigate those different things, and also conflict and concern. Those are all things that were also super beneficial from Roxbury that I still continue to take in. How am I showing up in my spaces, in my meetings, and so on and so forth. So beneficial, not only in college, but beyond. How am I planning my week? What does that look like time management wise?
I think being in the Roxbury program, it really helps me to, like, when I get going to the college, I'm not afraid to ask for help, just as like Jonathan says. And especially asking help from someone who has more experience than you and someone who's like older, because you have already formed, like I have already practiced form a relationship with like a faculty member in high school. So it does really help me to do it again in college. And I think that it's really helpful and beneficial beyond college.
Yeah. To kind of piggyback on most of that, it was definitely, and Ms. Ramos will know that she was incredible help for me, but especially when a semester started, you got your syllabus, you could see the whole semester, and so being able to really, not it looks really intense because you have this whole semester worth of classes and assignments, be able to break it down and understand where it might be a hard week or not, where you can kind of really prep. But also, again, like they said, is to be able to ask for help, go to office hours. There was a lot of people in my class that would wouldn't go to office hours because, oh, you don't need to go talk to the professor, but that's they're your best outlet. And again, creating that relationship with your professors is immense in terms of recommendations, in terms of just help throughout the class. And even my college had a place called the Academic Center of Excellence, which was a lot like Roxbury. So I was able to, set up appointments if I needed help with a paper and knowing how to ask for help and knowing what to prepare for. Again, it's just, it's being, and I think it's something also the Roxbury program would really help is that there's people in your corner. It's not you against the world. It's like you can grab help from anywhere. And having that advocate for yourself and having someone in your corner, they're also there in college too. You just have to find them, and the Roxbury program helping you understand that they're also there. So that was definitely a big part in what helped me in college.
And I'd love to just jump in with a few things that that you said that really stuck out to me that I think were so specific to something about Roxbury that makes it unique and different. Jonathan and Jasmine, you touched on the emotional aspect of Roxbury and that support that for you as a whole individual, right? Because learning is social and emotional. You can't separate out the emotional piece from the social piece, from the academic piece. If you are not emotionally present to learn, then you're not going to get the most out of those situations. And so something that we try to recognize in Roxbury is the student as a whole individual. And so that was really powerful. The other thing is kind of learning about yourself and learning about what works for you. Julie and I had talked about in my years there, kind of like the science of procrastination, how that works, what that feels like, why that's so appealing to avoid something that we don't want to do, and then some ways to navigate that. Jonathan, you spoke about, time management, and Jake, you touched on kind of getting that whole syllabus at a year's glance and how do you navigate that. So something that we focus on in Roxbury that I think has been true for a long time in the history of the program are those executive functioning skills, those skills that direct your actions to meet a goal. So really building those skills explicitly. And I feel like everyone really talked about really taking advantage of the resources that are available to you. It's not about what you can do independently all alone. Being successful is taking advantage of all the resources at your disposal. That means advocating for the support that's necessary, taking advantage of accommodations if those are needed, finding the people that are in your corner and advocating for yourself and building those relationships with the people that can support you to be successful in a variety of settings. I feel like I was trying to jot down some notes as you were speaking because those are the things that really stuck out to me. But I'm wondering, Julie, if there's something that I missed, or if Jake, Jasmine, and Jonathan, if I miscaptured or misrepresented anything that you wanted me to clarify or wanted to take the opportunity to clarify.
I think one thing that I wanted to say, because I thought it was important, I meant to say it originally, is that your Roxbury instructor really bridges the gap of communication with your individual teachers. Especially as a student, it's really scary to be like, oh, like I didn't understand this and I couldn't go to you. But to have someone that is unconditionally in your corner, is going to hold you accountable, but really going to advocate for you, is so, so important. And I think with the advancement of technology specifically, I think when I was there, like towards the end, Jody actually would like share this like document with me so I could see it, she could see it, we could edit it together, which was so awesome. I was so guilty of just throwing all my papers into my backpack and not into a folder. Things would get ripped, they would get messed up. So to have that online in front of me was so beneficial, but moreover, having that voice of, well, one, she had that some power within the dynamic, right? She was an adult, she was a teacher or a Roxbury instructor, but it was nice to have to bridge that gap and to really have someone that you knew could support you. Even when maybe you were falling short, they would still do their best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really important point. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Jake, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you did. I just wanted to also chime in with that because I had that written down in my notes as well. But it's also the point that it's an adult that's also not your family, because family will also advocate for you, but they're not in the system and they're not in the school there where your instructor knows all the professors. They can understand what you're saying and understand what the professor's saying. Where sometimes, when you say this to your family, and they'll obviously advocate for you as well, they don't know the language of the school sometimes, or they don't know like how the class is set up, but it's really someone in your corner. And I sometimes call this home base, or like a rock. It's extremely important, and it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Couldn't have said it better. So the last question that we'll share on our end before we open it up is what would you want everyone to know about you and your experiences and what you've gained from Roxbury? Anything that you haven't shared or wanted to make sure to put in the space. And then, like I said, we'll open it up.
Yeah, I can go. We talked about college and kind of just the advocate that our instructors were. But I think also a massive thing that I learned from Roxbury, and that I always tell a lot of people, what I gained from it is, you learn how to learn. Because anyone can take classes, anyone can read textbooks, anyone can listen to lectures, but knowing how to absorb that and then grasp the material is a skill itself. And that took me a long term to even understand that piece of, learning. And Roxbury is definitely the greatest tool that helped me with that. Breaking down what a syllabus is trying to say, or what an assignment is trying to say, and what to get the most out of it. Roxbury was definitely there to help me learn that piece of learning, and then be able to take that, into college, into my I got my MBA, into my career, is learning how to learn, and learning how different people also teach. So all these professors have different methods. So how are you going to absorb from one professor to the next, and keep your class, your course load going? So that's kind of the biggest piece from Roxbury that I have taken and continue to use.
Yeah, I think I covered, we mentioned most of the benefits of joining the Roxbury program. And also, I think like my Roxbury instructor are like a very measured person. So I also learned a lot from learning about what her thoughts, like we will share, we will be discussing like certain things, and I will share my view and she shared hers, and we just learn a lot from each other. And also, I think it's really important, like Roxbury plays a big part in terms of my personal development during my time, like especially when I'm like 14 to 18, it really plays a big part. And I think it definitely makes me more, what is it? I would say the program itself is like, I would say a lot of time therapeutic, and it does really help me to become like a more mature person in the long run. So I think that is like my biggest take from the program.
Yeah, I really agree with Jasmine. There's two parts to this. I think one, Roxbury really helped me understand how my ADHD manifested. I was so young, and I was so confused by why I had so much like untapped energy. But I really and continue to utilize the skills that Jody really spoke to me about. Like, if like things are taking too long, or if it's a big assignment, like you're allowed to break it down, you're allowed to like break it into pieces, and that was so beneficial for me, and I still do that. And it also just allowed, Roxbury was so helpful in allowing me to kind of see my potential and my own ability. And it still to this day is one of the best things. I still keep in contact with my instructor. We speak throughout the year. All the grandbabies, we're up to date on all of that. So it is not only just such an instrumental part educationally, but I really did find someone that continues to check in, is willing to hear me out when work gets tough. She's like, give me a call, we could talk about whatever you need. So she's really become like a family to me. And what I will say is the most scary part of Roxbury was the fact that she spoke to my parents every week. That always really freaked me out, but it was wonderful because there was never this like aspect of communication not being kind of discussed through all parties, so that everyone was on the same page. They knew, especially coming around those bigger dates like end of marking period. That was such a blessing, and I knew my parents knew what was coming around the corner on that email or on that portal message with the grades. So super helpful.
You've all shared such wonderful insights about Roxbury, and I appreciate all of your honesty. It's clear how much the Roxbury program meant to you and has impacted you. It's so awesome to hear your stories. We'd like to open it up for questions. So again, at the bottom of your screen or somewhere on your screen, there should be a Q&A box that has a little question mark in it. If you have questions we'd like to put in there, And I do have one to start us off. A few of you I know had Mrs. Robinson. She's here tonight. She wanted to see you. And she asked, she's curious if you have any advice for Roxbury instructors. Are there things you suggest that we do more of or do differently in light of your experiences?
When I look back, I think if in the beginning of the year, we can have like set up a kind of a more structured program, like what we look at, what our goal are and what we want to what the area we want to improve, and we set how we are going to evaluate them. And then we come up with the plan, and then we execute them and then review how we do. I think that would be very beneficial. But I guess I bet because I take the Roxbury program 10 years ago, like more than 10 years ago, I think. So I'm not sure what it's like today, but back then, I think if we can have some kind of review program, I think that would be really beneficial.
Julie, do you know what I'm thinking? Do you want to share? I feel like you might be thinking the same thing that I'm thinking.
Go for it.
So Jasmine, that is really validating, because something that we've implemented in the last couple of years is having students co-create specific goals for areas that they want to work on and determine how they are going to kind of assess their progress towards those goals on a regular basis. So at least several times a year, but more often depending on kind of what the goal is. And those are co-created. So students and instructors are kind of figuring out kind of what that's going to look like, what's most meaningful, and how we're going to see how students are progressing. And so that speaks to some of the practices that we've kind of implemented in the past few years. And Julie, I'm probably missing something, so I would welcome any clarification or additions to that.
The one thing I would add is we always invite families to be a part of that process as well, because we realize how important that family, school, and team is to student success. And so we always invite families to be a part of that conversation in terms of goal areas the students should work on. And then, always keeping them in the loop about the progress and the reflection that we have with students throughout the year about those goals. And do we need to change those goals mid-year because you've met them and maybe it's something else to focus on. So it's always it's a fun process to be a part of. Yeah. Jake or Jonathan, do you have anything suggestions for us?
The suggestion would be, maybe, I'm not sure if other instructors do it because Mrs. Robinson and I did it as well, but I played a lot of soccer. I played soccer outside of Cheshire Academy for Cheshire Academy, and then in college that was my main pursuit. Obviously, you have to take classes and you have to be a student, but we integrated my soccer goals as well as my schedule and all that stuff into my plans and into kind of my structure of allocating time and time management. So, making sure there's always room for, passions in those plans is definitely recommended, because, they're for school, but everyone has a lot of different passions. Mine being soccer, and we integrated that into our plans, which was amazing, and feeling heard and feeling seen, because that was definitely my main priority and what I wanted to do for college. So having that integrated would be good. I'm sure other instructors do it, but I do think it should be a high priority.
Absolutely. I know that's something we all are very mindful of, not just the academics, but what are the other pieces that are important to our community, because those are really important as well.
Sorry about that. I have no clue what happened. It just kicked me out. So That was weird. I think one thing that I will say is that I think was really beneficial and should continue to be beneficial. Roxbury is for a variety of students. You don't have to have a learning disability. You can just be a student that's looking for more support. I take the lens as someone that is more confident in having a learning disability now as an adult. But I think it's really important for instructors to have sort of awareness or background on the ways that different learning disabilities impact students' functioning and their ability to complete assignments. I mean, dyslexia, ADHD, anyone that's neurodivergent, that is like super important to have background on, whether that is like trainings for Roxbury instructors and teachers all around. I will say that my learning style was really different. I didn't do well in the classes that we were just sitting and watching a presentation, and typically it would be shown in my behavior and my progress and my classwork, right? And one thing that Jody really did, having a well-rounded knowledge of ADHD and also really working in partnership with the health center, was to say, hey, like he needs different type of seating, or hey, he needs the notes to be printed out for him so we can highlight them. So it's really just continuing to push that education for instructors. That way they are really able to fully meet the needs, because yeah, they're not always teaching the class, but they're guiding and aiding that support. And I was really lucky that she was willing to put herself out there in front of me, even if teachers didn't agree. Oh, I don't want him doodling on a chalkboard, right? It was something that was so necessary. So continued education is something that I would push for everyone in general, but specifically in Roxbury. I really benefited from that.
What I'm hearing you say that I think is so powerful, and you correct me if I've gotten anything wrong, but you're saying your instructor really understood you as a learner, what your strengths were, what strategies would most help you to meet your full potential, and really advocated for you, with you, about what those might look like in different settings. And I think having that kind of wide range view of the full diversity of learning strengths, of learning challenges, and how those kind of look in different settings can be really helpful in ensuring that students get their needs met and are as successful as possible. Did I capture that okay, Jonathan?
Perfectly. Yeah, absolutely. And I only really said this now because I'm like working in a field where I'm working with a lot of people with different mental health capacities, but it's so important, and there's a lot of stigma surrounding, any type of learning disability. So to have someone that really knows what they're talking about, it's not that you have to be a professional and trained, but just to be aware is so beneficial. And yeah, you're right on it.
Do you have any other questions from our audience?
I feel like we covered so much in not that long of a time. And I'm so grateful that I got to hear this conversation and to be a part of this conversation.
Yes, it was wonderful to hear your stories. Thank you for sharing tonight, and we appreciate all of your time. Hopefully we can connect again. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I hope you have a good night.